All right, what is up, y'all? It is Grant with the Google Files here. I got my main man Donovan here with me.
What's going on?
And today we'll be discussing Illmatic. First of all, actually, check your audio real quick, Donovan.
Oh shit. I might need to just go ahead and not use my AirPods.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, is it better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
All right, so we can go ahead and talk about Illmatic real quick. So first things off, like people call Illmatic the hip hop Bible. Why do you think that, or do you think that?
I think so. I mean, I think it's the quintessential hip hop album. I think it kind of encapsulates everything that you would want out of an album. It has strong singles, um, beautiful storytelling. Um, it's concise. For me personally, I'm a fan of shorter albums, so it's it's a good solid size. I think Illmatic is like 10 to 12 songs maybe, but it's definitely not nothing like crazy long. I know albums now are usually like 20 something. Um, so yeah, I can't think of any song that I would really skip on that project. Not even like it's definitely not a bad song on there. So yeah, I think it's really a quintessential hip hop album and how you would really want to craft something like that.
In terms of like just being like concise, um, and just like you said, shorter albums, everything like that. It's kind of like a I can't say like a blueprint in a sense, but it's kind of like a blueprint in a sense. But like think about the amount of you have an album with DJ Premier on it, Q-Tip on it, P Rock on it, and who else? I'm trying to think. Damn. Regardless, the point still stands. All star lineup, especially for like a debut album. What's an album that we feel like was close in terms of like all star lineup, in terms of like multiple producers on the album? What's the closest thing to Illmatic or better than Illmatic in that aspect?
Uh, Butterfly. Um,
I got
I really
that's
don't
somebody
know.
I gotta come back to that one.
I gotta really look at all the producers that was on that. I do know he had used a wide range of different things, because it was so jazz influenced, he kind of had to. But it's also longer, so yeah, that's really the only thing that I can think off the top of my head, at the very least. I'm sure it's something out there as far as like so many different things.
On the list of how many like if we taking like a hip hop essentials album like list and well I have to like it's like you gotta put Illmatic on there like it's like a necessity. Um, especially with the opening track being in my state of mind. Then you have the word is yours on there. One love. It ain't hard to tell. I believe closing out the album. Um, let's see.
I want to see. Does this close this out if I go? Okay, you can still hear me if I go look at the track list?
Yeah,
Okay.
Donald is going to go look at the track list for Illmatic right now because I kind of forgot the order myself.
Genesis, New York State of Mind, Life's a Bitch, The World is Yours, Halftime, Memory Lane, One Love, One Time for Your Mind, Represent, It Ain't Hard to Tell. That's technically only 9 tracks, 40 minutes, very, very great length of time and great track length.
There's no way that shit is 40 minutes.
If music tell me it's 40 minutes, somebody lying. It ain't me though.
Somebody lied because that shit
Maybe
do
if you
not like listen to it. That shit don't feel like 40 minutes.
But the thing is, though, that's kind of what you want is that I feel like the better something is, the shorter it feels. It's like you go through it and you listen to Illmatic on a hour drive and you feel like you were still only 20 minutes in and you like, dang, I only got like 20 minutes left. And it's like that's kind of what you want. As anything entertainment wise, no matter the length, you want it to feel short, even if it may not be. Like a Quentin
Yeah,
Tarantino movie be long, but you don't even feel like it's long because most of the time that jump be really good. Pulp Fiction like 3 hours. I don't never watch Pulp Fiction and feel like I didn't. It's been 3 hours.
that's a good point because I haven't felt that way either. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and say I feel like Nas has the best homages to him in terms of like other rappers, because because LZ made like a whole homage album to Illmatic, and that shit was great. And then you have like J Electronica, you have Blue, with his Nas homage too. I'm trying to think of another rapper that has. I think he got the best.
It's everyone just. It's really hard to be prominent in rap or have a rap career and not do some type of homage to Nas in some way, especially not Illmatic, because again, whether you feel like Illmatic is the best album of all time or not, or wherever you classify it as, it is a it's you can't really think of hip hop without it. It is arguably the greatest debut album ever. I feel like it very easily is so. And it's just the impact that it left is really unquantifiable. Like you can't really mention hip hop without it. So it's only natural that all these other rappers are going to make references and make homages and make songs and all this other stuff.
Oh, I do want to say this. I do feel like I, I'm not gonna slander Cole on this episode, but I do feel like "Let Nas Down" is a good song. I like that song because even though like at the very end of the song, like very end of the first verse, the nigga is like, "Yeah, Nas heard this. He fucking hates it," and then like the song gets sad as fuck. But what's even better is that Nas a couple months after, or like a year or two after, like makes the song writing back to Cole, like, okay, it's okay, like I appreciate you and all this shit. So I thought that was really cool, especially like how the whole blog era is basically we have these legends pretty much co-signing um these younger rappers like I remember when ASAP came out, they had co-signs from not only the South, uh they had of course they had a co-sign from Raekwon too. So that was pretty cool. Um Kendrick getting the key to the West Coast, self-explanatory. Cole with a basically willing his way to a Jay-Z co-sign. Um, yeah, you know,
And it was almost kind of hard for the fact that Cole got that Jay-Z cosign is like crazy. Yeah, I mean, because again, he did have to kind of force his way to it. He had the talent, but he was also in an odd. Cole's from as a person from North Carolina, I want to say that North Carolina is kind of a middle of nowhere rap city or rap state. Excuse me. Especially with him being from Fayetteville and not like Charlotte or something. Uh, so yeah, he's.
excuse that. That's my fucking going off, man.
I figured he's not really close to nothing. And the closest thing he is to is Atlanta, which is like 4 hours away. And it's not like it would have been kind of hard pressed for him to get like a Outcast cosign or something like that. And then Jay Z and Nas all the way in New York, and I'm sure they mostly gonna focus on other New York artists. And I mean, ASAP got their cosign because they're so Southern influenced, but also they had that collective, and of course, like niggas from Wu Tang gonna notice that. So I mean, it is cool that Nas wrote him back to that. It is funny though because I feel like if like majority of other rappers made Let Nas Down, niggas would have called him a dick rider. But again, it's a great song. He did what he needed to do. I'm glad he got the he eventually ended up getting the cosign. I don't think he was a dick rider for making that song. I just feel like any other person would have gotten that label for that, especially if he made it like now.
If
Just
you
because the
made it
way
now, you really can't give no type of
because
like
the
praise or nothing
internet
like that without calling
is
people out
just
dick
so
riding.
like The internet is really quick to call anything dick riding. So I just know like it would not have a song like that really not gonna go well now, especially because Nas not dead.
He's alive and breathing. But I would say I would say this too. I feel like people are also very harsh on Nas's catalog because I feel like you have, of course, people don't understand how unnormal it is to, I would say, top your first body of work in a sense, because that's when usually rappers are the hungriest, like when they debut. So like I feel like we kind of get on Nas too much for like, oh, he didn't top Illmatic. Like, dude, he made Illmatic. It was written after that, which is also considered a classic. Lost Tapes, that's considered a classic. And I also will say, I feel like people are also like very harsh on his catalog between after Lost Tapes up until now. Like, of course, you had the Nas resurgence with like King's Disease and albums like that, but people are very hard. Like some people, like people who aren't Nas fans, they're very hard on Godson. They're very hard on now the certain Nas album, who should not be named. We already know what the deal is with that one. Like Nas, what the fuck? What the fuck were you thinking with that, man? Like seriously. But I'm a fan of Godson. Stillmatic is cool. The only thing I hate on Godson is I Can. Like
I
if I
love
could,
that. It's
if I
crazy. I remember listening to that song as a kid, and I didn't even know who. I thought it was like some children's like song. Like I thought it was on like a PBS Kids channel, and I was like, "Man, it's hard." I would have never guessed it was by like a rapper of Nas's caliber, but it was cool to see when I finally went down his catalog.
I despise I Can respectfully. Like if I could erase one Nas song from history, it would be that song. Like the piano for so much the piano just gets like extremely obnoxious.
As far as like Nas's catalog, I will say this as a person who was like, I listened to as I was going through my rap journey and kind of finding out things that I liked and disliked and going to listen to the classics and finally listening to um, Illmatic, and then I was like, well, this is really good, and so now I'm gonna go listen to It Was Written, and I was like, well, this is really good, and then I would just like look up like favorite Nas albums or like people's favorite Nas albums. Nostradamus was not anything that I needed to listen to, but Stillmatic was wonderful. I thought Godson was pretty good, and that Life Is Good is crazy. Yeah, and like you said, the Lost Tapes are great. I Am was straight. Uh, he has a very, very good catalog. And like you said, I think people underestimate how hard it is to really stay consistent for that long. Like even Jay has like albums I
He
wish
got
he would have
done.
never made.
He got
People
done.
want to make it seem like he doesn't, but he definitely has albums that I really wish he would have left at home. But
Carter, Holy Grail. I will say I feel like people are a little bit harsh on Blueprint 2. I feel like people are harsh, even though I'm not fond of it. People were overrating the fuck out of 444 when it first dropped. But
another thing I think people are too harsh about him is his beat selection. I never really understood the issue with Nas's beats. It's definitely some where I'm like, all right, whatever. But it was never any that I'm like, or it's never consistent enough where I feel like he's bad at beats. Like, I don't know. I feel like beats are very what you make it, and something can be bad. It Something can be bad if you don't utilize it properly.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Single ladies, the single ladies beat is awful.
That shit sound
Single
like
ladies is crazy.
that should sound like horror movie music And then they were like, okay, Beyonce, do something with this. And then
Beyonce turned Single Ladies into one of the catchiest songs of all time. And it is a wonderful song, but I don't know how she heard that beat and made it into what she was. I would have thrown that beat at the Insane Clown Posse or something. But or Eminem maybe. But Beyonce, I don't know who heard that and was like, I gotta get this to her. But yeah, so I feel like beats are really what you make it, and I ain't never really heard him rap on nothing. And I'm like, this is awful, and it's
yeah,
definitely, and even if I have, it's nothing to where I would label him a bad beat picker, especially now with what he's doing. Dear God, no.
yeah, like people. I think out of a lot of the legends, like I do think people are very, very harsh on Nas, and he gets kind of like the slander that I feel like other legends should get and start having does. I feel like Nas has stuff all over the place. I think he has the elite stuff. I think he has the good stuff, the decent stuff, the mid, and then like the bad stuff. But I feel like a lot of that comes from just simply dropping something, like having a great like apex versus like, okay, my first all three of my best bodies of work are like back to back to back, and then like everything else is kind of like all over the place, not in like a bad way, but like you got some good and you got some duds. And then I will say the King's Disease tapes. Oh, somebody finna come get me. Um, but the King's Disease tapes, Magic is good as fuck. Like that's, I feel like that is the best. I feel like that is the best Nas album in the past 10 years. Even I think like I like Life is Good, but like I feel like Magic was like perfect. It's like concise, um, and Hit Boy was doing his thing on there. What was I gonna say? Hmm.
Do you not like King's Disease or the King's Disease series?
The first one was okay. The first one was like very mediocre to me because it was like he had a bunch of people on there that just had no business being on there. Like I, with all due respect, I don't really want to hear Nas and Big Sean, or I don't want to hear him over these trap beats. Like, what are you doing? But like the second one, it ironed out a lot, and I feel like he was able to like display his pink game better. Like, there's a song with Lauryn Hill on there. That shit like amazing. Like, I feel like that is one of the best Nas best songs. Magic is a really good. Magic is still what I think is best stuff. Like, even though King's Disease 2 and 3 are good, I feel like Magic is like the most replayable. Like, you got a really great feature out of ASAP Rocky, funny enough. Um, like with Wave Guys, the outro track is extremely good, and like his cadence is like damn near vintage on that. I'm not saying like it's like Illmatic here, but like I can listen to it. It's like, okay, he kind of rewind the clock on this versus kind of like trying to align with the times. King's Disease 3, I feel like it was good. Um, but I feel like it was more of Hit Boy showing out with like his sample picking more than it was Nas rapping really well. Even though he was rapping really well on it. And I want to say this: well, Life is Good. Like sometimes I think people overrate that album because I feel like people give him that tax because that was his best album in like X amount of years.
Yeah, that was 2012. So, uh, what did he drop before that? Distant Relatives, Untitled. I'm not saying the real name of that album. Hip Hop is Dead. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was. This had a lot of really good tracks on here, though. I do not like how, again, as a person who is not a fan of how long albums. I do not like that this album is 19 tracks. I don't think Nas needs to make very long albums,
Yeah,
but um, I do think it is pretty good. I also do find it funny how like he'll just random. I think like every album, no matter how good or bad it is, will have one of the best songs this nigga has ever made on it. And then like whether the rest of the album is mid or not doesn't matter. Because it's just always gonna be one song that you're like, dang, you really made this in the mix of this. Like Cherry One on Life is Good. Um, that Still Dreaming with Kanye West and Chrisette Michele on Hip Hop is Dead. Um, what was on? What was on Godson? Like Made You Look and the remix. It's just like it'll just be
is that
really
it's made,
random tracks.
it's Made You Look the one with the joint produced by Alchemist? Because
Which song is that?
you mentioned Godson and like what's it? I think it's Made You Look, but I must double check.
Godson has Get Down. Get Down is amazing. That's also one of the best songs man has ever made. The story on that song is crazy.
Book of Rhymes is a song on Godson that's really good. It's the one produced by Alchemist.
I don't know how you feel about this song personally. I remember listening to this song for the very first time, and I thought it was insane. It's probably one of the funniest songs I've ever heard in my life. It's a good song to me, but it's also funny. I cannot believe that Nas and Busta Rhymes made a love song about fried chicken. That is like he did not have to do that in the slightest. He did not have to name that album that. He didn't have to do the rollout that he did where him and Khalees was in the N-word things, and he didn't have to make that song. It was a good song. It's a funny song. But he also it wasn't necessary. I can admit I could have lived my life without that song.
That's just when you kind of sit back and just like laugh at because even though the album wasn't good, it's just kind of like it was such an egregious concept. It's kind of like you just kind of sort of laugh at it, especially with the shit that he was doing during the rollout.
I just want to know like which one of them came up with the idea of that. Like who heard that beat and was like, this is what we're gonna use this beat for. It's a love song to fried chicken.
I want to know how that would go in 2023.
I'm calling somebody a coon immediately. I'm not even gonna give him a chance. I'm calling him a coon immediately. I don't care what type of underlying tone you were trying to do, like what the overarching point is. Maybe you do have everyone's best interests at heart. I'm calling you a coon because you're gonna have to do that.
But we gonna wrap it up with that. Tune in to the next episode of the Groovy Files. We gonna be talking with like our faces on cam more because I know how people be just like they want to be able to pair a name with the face and everything like that, voice with the face. So next episode, kind of still thinking about it. Might do something more just album centered. Could be an artist centered.
Pack the other day or a Pac, however you say it. Did anybody ever figure that out? Is it Anderson Pack or Anderson Pac?
I think it's Anderson .Paak.
Okay,
I don't know.
We'll talk about that. So we that is something. Breezy Lovejoy.
Oh, that new song that they dropped. Pac did not have to before they like that. He did not have to before they like that.
It's something about him that
when he rapping, he a whole different being.
I don't understand. I feel like he would be one of the coolest people ever to hang out with. Like Corday seems like a wonderful person. It's just like listen to him rap. I don't know what it is. He didn't do nothing to me. I ain't never heard him say nothing, and I'm like, this is egregious. And it's just like I'd be like, I guess that song with him and Baby Tron. Baby Tron was going crazy. Corday came on. I was like, dear Lord. I wish there was somebody else on this. I wish. But yeah, we'll talk about it another day.
But we gonna wrap it up there. Peace out, y'all.